So is there a Psyop going on with the Legend of Zelda articles lately? Because just a few days ago, I reacted to one of the most brain-dead Zelda articles I'd ever seen. And here we are just a few days later, and there's another one out that might be even dumber. So welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idol, and yeah, if you haven't heard, the Legend of Zelda series is begging for a total reboot focused on one character. I'll give you 3 guesses who that character is, and by the way, it's not Zelda. Going from an article where they were saying that Link needs to die to promote Zelda as a playable character, as the up-and-coming strong female she really is, to now an article about, spoiler alert, needing to bring back Linkle, a non-canon character from a non-character spin-off game that's only been seen once 9 years ago. Why are these articles coming out so close together when there's not even a new Zelda game on the horizon yet? If not, but them trying to effectively strong-arm Nintendo into making these weird decisions by feigning as if there's some sort of online support for just bogus like this. So we're getting into this article. Before we do, hit that subscribe button. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news nearly every day. And yeah, the Legend of Zelda series is begging for a total reboot focused on one character. The Legend of Zelda franchise has spanned many generations of games, nearly all of which played through the eyes of Link. The young and brave adventurer has gone through plenty of growth across his different iterations, with every take on Link being a competent and part of some memorable narratives. I would, for the most part, agree so far. You are 1 for 1 on facts thus far with your first sentence. It does not stay like that for long, folks. However, perhaps now would be time to consider a reboot of the franchise, as one can only enjoy the same formula of Link saving Hyrule or another kingdom for so long. Tears of the Kingdom was the very first Switch game to be $70, and it sold gangbusters. Also, what do you mean the same formula? Because the last 2 Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, radically changed the formula after several years of the formula being the same. Not only that, you could make an argument that the Legend of Zelda games have gone through multiple formula changes. I mean, what about Echoes of Wisdom? That was a bit of a formula change. Or what about, Triforce Heroes? Or when Four Swords Adventures came out, the Four Swords Adventures games and Four Swords game itself were breaks from the formula. I mean, Zelda 2 was a break from the formula of the original Zelda game. So there really isn't a identifiable Zelda formula because it changes so much. And frankly, unlike games that have changed the formula, like let's say Resident Evil, for example, players tend to really stick with Zelda even with the formula change without complaining about, like, oh, how it's lost its identity by and large. So, no, you're fundamentally off base from the beginning with your assessment of what is a Zelda formula. Regardless of how finely crafted it may be, if such a restart were to happen, a new protagonist would make for an interesting change, and one missing the Legend of Zelda character would be the perfect candidate. And of course, again, they're talking about Linkle. No. I'm sorry, I completely, even if they weren't talking about Linkle, I would push back on this. I do not want to play a Legend of Zelda game that's not about Link and Zelda, or to some extent, I mean, to be fair, Zelda has not been in every game. She was not in Link's Awakening, for the most part. She was not in Majora's Mask, but in general, she's a staple character. Link has been in every main Zelda game because he is the main character. And then you've got Ganondorf, who again has the least amount of appearances between Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf, but even so, he is the main big bad. He is the Dr. Eggman of the Legend of Zelda series. Sure, Sonic's got other villains. It's got the Deadly Six. It's got Chaos things, Shadow, whatever, things of that effect. But at the end of the day, it always comes back to Dr. Eggman, just like how it always comes back to Ganon/Ganondorf in Legend of Zelda. Why? Because that's what we as fans want. It really isn't difficult. The Legend of Zelda isn't one of the most famous gaming franchises of all time for nothing. It's because Nintendo has consistently given fans what they want. Considering there are many different games in the Legend of Zelda franchise, yes, again, many of which have different formulas, even though you so clearly said earlier that they don't, it's no surprise there have been many distinct characters that players have interacted with. One in particular has proven to be quite popular, despite not being seen since their introduction in the Nintendo 3DS release of Hyrule Warriors Legends in 2016. So a character that's not been seen in 9 years in a non-canon 3DS spin-off game. That's who you're hedging your bets on being like the next big savior of the Legend of Zelda series. A series that by no indication needs any sort of saving. I mean, it's not like it's a Ubisoft game, it's Assassin's Creed out here and absolutely floundering. A young woman named Linkle. She is the female version of Link that many fans asked for, and her introduction was received quite well. Yes, her introduction was received so well that she's not talked about in many Legend of Zelda circles whatsoever and has not even been acknowledged by Nintendo again in the last 9 years. Although Linkle has been left on the bench since her debut, I wonder why. Her protagonist of the franchise reboot would make for a logical move given the opportunity she can present. We don't even want to reboot The Legend of Zelda, let alone a reboot starring Linkle. And I don't want to get any of this like, what an anti-woke chud. In my video the other day about them killing off Link to replace with Zelda, I said multiple times, I love Zelda. I talked about what a strong, capable, awesome character she is. I talked about how she is a fighter. I talked about all her accolades in the various games where Link would not succeed without her. I was also a big proponent of Echoes of Wisdom, just like I was a big proponent for the Princess Peach game. I've been a big proponent of how Peach was not woke in the Mario Brothers movie, so I don't want to hear any of this gaming chud bullshit that so obviously comes with the comments on this, because I have been a staunch advocate for how awesome both Zelda and Peach are. This is just an objectively bad idea that nobody who's an actual fan of The Legend of Zelda is even asking for. Why a Legend of Zelda reboot should focus around Linkle? Oh, please explain to us why. Although Linkle may not be one of the most iconic characters in the Zelda franchise, you don't fucking say that a female character in a non-canon side game on the 3DS is not one of the most popular, and yet you want that to lead a franchise? By all means, how has that been working out for the Kamala Khan or Captain Marvel comics that keep getting canceled every 17 issues? She has at least left a lasting impression on fans. Has she, though? If a reboot were to happen, she would be one of the best candidates to center the narrative on, especially when thinking about certain factors. Fans have been begging for Linkle's return since her debut more than 9 years ago. They haven't, though. Where are you getting this? Show some sources. Give us at least some fucking tweets from these nameless, faceless accounts with tranny flags in their bio that they're asking for a return for Linkle. They're not. Like, did you know that Nintendo actually received backlash when they changed Link from his, handsome Ocarina of Time look to the childlike chibi character we see in the Wind Waker? Where's the hate mail coming from? Nintendo said this themselves. I've covered it in a different article before. From women, female gamers that played The Legend of Zelda did not like that their hunky Link was taken away, and in turn they got Wind Waker Link. Like, you gotta remember, Wind Waker, as beloved as it is now, was not liked when it came out. It was not well received. I mean, your boy loved it out the gate, but what can I say? I'm kind of autistic. The point is, yeah, Nintendo has actually gone on record as saying it was women that complained about the change. So who would this even be for? Meaning that announcing a game centered around her would likely be received well. I agree to disagree. Considering the intent behind the creation of Linkle was to simply be the female version of Link, and her being instantly popular among reveal, players can quickly familiarize themselves with and accept her if she would be the star of a franchise reboot. No, they would not. They accepted her because she was a side character and a non-canon spin-off. They would not accept her as the leading character in a Legend of Zelda game. Why? Because The Legend of Zelda is nearly 40 years old. It has a pretty dedicated fan base. In fact, it's got generations of players because the game does in fact span probably roughly 3 to 4 generations of gamers the world over that know of the main character as Link. Even Zelda isn't inherently the main character of Zelda. It is Link. You follow his story, his development, his trials and tribulations. That you can't just swap in a palette swap female version and think like, oh, well, players will accept it because she was accepted in this one non-canon spinoff, when let's be real, she was one of a myriad of playable characters. So, like, where's even the data on how much she was chosen compared to literally any other version of Link? Linkle mainly using dual crossbows means that another weapon other than the Master Sword can take the spotlight, allowing for many interesting combat possibilities. What are you even talking about? You're out here proving you never even played a Zelda game. The Master Sword isn't even in half of the Zelda games. So by you talking about the Master Sword as if it's this end-all be-all weapon, well, like, yes, it's the most famous from the games, but it wasn't even in every game. Hell, it didn't even come about until the third game, and then it wasn't in every subsequent game afterwards. Like, Link uses crossbows. There's an entire game called Link's Crossbow Training. Link uses bow and arrows and slingshots. Hell, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, he uses God knows how many different types of weapons. Boomerangs and spears and great swords, the Master Sword, short swords. What do you mean? Oh, allowing for more interesting combat possibilities. Any combat possibility you can do with dual crossbows would be the same as we've seen with the singular crossbow or the bow and arrow, but now you got 2 of them. That alone is not enough to make for an interesting Legend of Zelda gameplay loop. Linkle may have been one of the more unfortunate characters in the Legend of Zelda, given that she is relegated to a single game despite being beloved. You keep saying that, but saying something over and over don't make it true, but that doesn't mean things cannot change. They can. But should they? Bringing her back via a reboot would certainly turn heads, not in a good way, not just because of the possible innovations it could lead to. You don't need a new character for innovations. Breath of the Wild was innovative. Now we can debate whether that was good or bad, ditching the original Zelda formula for what Breath of the Wild was, but that's a different discussion altogether. The fact of the matter is, just bringing in a new character does not inherently mean innovation. Like, no, innovation comes from gameplay, comes from ideas for the story, comes from, at the end of the day, when it comes to Nintendo, really just gameplay. That's their bread and butter, because they don't like care about graphics or anything, which is good. I prefer that way. But the fact of the matter is, no. If you were so shallow as to think just taking away a dick and adding a vagina means innovation, no wonder things like Charlie's Angels flopped and you got mad the men didn't go see it after you were saying, oh, men, you don't need to go see this. This is for women. Like, that's not innovative, but also because it means the return of someone who had a significant impact on the franchise. If she had such a significant impact on the franchise, why did it take so long for her to come about as a character, and why has she not been seen since? You're just saying shit to sound professional, sound like you know what you're talking about, when based on everything you've said up to this point, you've all but proven you don't actually play games, or you don't actually play Zelda games, or you've not played the vast majority of Zelda games, and you're going off surface level knowledge. Let's be real, you probably grazed, like, from a wiki in this. The lack of Linkle in Legend of Zelda games is a problem that can easily be solved. And of course, this actually links to an article titled Opinion, New Legend of Zelda's Lack of Linkle is a Problem. And like, I read through this, it's not worth going over, but basically they throw a fit that like, oh, where's Linkle? Why is it Link? It's a ridiculous article. They basically just use this as a way to loop back to an old argument they made. Can easily be solved by providing her with her own title, especially if it were a proper reboot, and doing so also presents Nintendo with an interesting opportunity. If she was meant to be Link's gender swap equivalent, it's possible that she was meant to be other iconic characters to be given the same treatment. We don't want that for other characters either. This ain't just a fucking Link thing. They're gonna talk about Prince Zelda here in a moment. I don't want a Prince Zelda either. I like Princess Zelda, and not because she's some dumb damsel in distress, because as I mentioned in my previous fucking video just a few days ago, Link almost never beats Ganon or Ganondorf without the help of Zelda. A new game can feature a narrative that takes place in an alternate timeline. Where's the innovation in that? That's been done before. Hero's Downfall timeline is an alternate timeline. Then we got the adult timeline and the child timeline. We already have multiple timelines, so if your whole deal is innovation, just adding a new timeline doesn't do anything for innovation because Zelda has already done this, where it can feature a narrative that takes place in an alternate timeline where possibilities such as Prince Zelda or a female version of Ganondorf are explored. Dude, if they did that, if they did a female version of Ganondorf, you would then be bitching and moaning that they made a dark-skinned female the bad guy. Oh, Nintendo and all their racisms. How can you make a dark-skinned woman the bad guy? Like I guarantee you, that would be the ultimate catch-22 for Nintendo, for you just insane land wells with blue hair and nose rings. It would certainly be interesting if something like that happened, as it can mean new personalities and thematic tones outside Zelda's norm. Okay, you got to answer this one for me. You try and convince us women can do anything men can do. If that's the case, then why would just making a male character female add new thematic tones? Either men and women are inherently different and separate, therefore, you're right, it would add new thematic tones, or, no, men and women are the same, there's no distinction, therefore, how would you add those tones? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Your logic falls apart under any modicum of scrutiny. While a reboot may not be a common expectation for the Legend of Zelda franchise, it could be worth embracing. A Linkle-led series of games has a great potential to deliver innovations that will satisfy fans looking for something fresh. But you keep using that word, innovation. What innovation would it actually bring about? Such as a focus on long-range combat with crossbows. You can do that in other games. Once you get the bow and arrow in the Zelda games, you could do most combat encounters with just that if you were so inclined. Like, that's Breath of the Wild. The opening, teaser trailer was Link pulling out a bow. He didn't even have a sword in that very first Breath of the Wild teaser. That game focused on long-range stuff from the outset, like Outset Island, Legend of Zelda reference, because I'm an actual fucking fan. Yes, so even, once again, you're proving you have no idea what you're talking about in terms of this franchise, while also getting Linkle back in the action and helping her join the ranks of the best female characters in gaming. Bullshit. Absolute bull. Linkle will never be up there with Lara Croft, or Jill Valentine, or Amy Rose, or any of the other myriad of characters. Like, again, you're talking about, like, oh, well, gender swapping would be innovative. I good goddamn guarantee you, if we advocated for a male Samus, you would throw a bitch fit, because it only works one way. If I was like, you know what, you're right, doing Linkle, gender swapping the main character could be innovative and interesting. Give me Sam instead of Samus. I want a strong, muscular, manly jawline, maybe with some grizzled features and some dirty, sandy blonde hair. Sam, the gender swapped Samus. You would throw a fucking fit. Why? Because this isn't actually about what you think would help the Zelda franchise, because the Zelda franchise is doing just fucking fine. This is about you hiding behind your obsession with gender politics and gender identity and trying to make a pseudo case for what would make for a new innovative Zelda game, when we've had innovation in just about every Zelda game that's gone on as they've come out. I mean, you go from Ocarina of Time, which was one of the most biggest innovations in gaming history, to then you get, not Twilight Princess, Wind Waker. And what Wind Waker do? Completely change the swordplay. Like, okay, it starts off similar to Ocarina, but then you get these Master Seals, and you start doing all this different, like, you learn how to, like, roll and do backslashes, and you're doing flips over motherfuckers and shit. And then you got Zelda Twilight Princess comes about, and it's innovative in its new, like, dark tone story, and Zelda dies in it, and you got this wolf gameplay, which has never been done before, and it's the biggest map of Hyrule we've ever seen. And then Skyward Sword comes out, and it's innovative in that it's the first Zelda game that kind of fucking sucks, except, you know, for Zelda 2. But then you get Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is probably the biggest innovation we'd seen since, like, A Link to the Past to Ocarina of Time. And then Tears of the Kingdom came out, and there honestly wasn't a whole lot of innovation there, but it was still a really fun game. The fact of the matter is, innovation is the name of the game with Nintendo, and they can do it in actual, honest, organic ways that revolve around gameplay, as opposed to these cheap tactics like gender swapping that, yeah, Hollywood relies upon, but then those movies don't sell, or comics rely upon, but then those books don't sell, or other video games are relied upon, and then the games don't sell. Just come out and say it, rather than giving us this fake ass, oh, we care about the franchise argument. Just I would at least have the respect that the little bit that I could possibly give you if you said, we're tired of playing as a dude, we want to play as a woman. But you can't do that because somebody just a few days ago beat you to that argument in a different website, a different writer, saying we want to play as Zelda more, but to do that effectively we need to kill off Link, which was a bullshit argument, but at least they were honest and that they wanted the fucking female superiority regime thing. Like, at least they gave that. This was a bogus article. This is a bogus mentality. They have no, like, stats to back up their claims. There's nobody in the Zelda community or any fans of the franchise that are actually clamoring for this. But again, why did this article even happen? Why did this come out? And why did it come out just a few days after a different article from Screen Rant instead of Game Rant talking about how, again, it's different writers. I checked, talking about how, oh, Zelda needs to really come into her own, and the only way to do that is to kill Link. There's this obsession with taking Link out of The Legend of Zelda that just seemed to come out of nowhere. And again, I know it sounds conspiratorial, but is there a psyop for The Legend of Zelda? Again, are they really trying to drum up fake interest, and they can use these numbers and whatnot as a way to, like, get Nintendo to bow to their whims? And Nintendo's not gonna know any better. They think this is actually what the fans want, when in all reality they're accidentally bowing and kowtowing to gender ideology and to fake activism and virtue signaling. It really is bananas, and it'll never come to fruition, but I feel like we need to point it out because, well, these articles do exist, so that means there are some people that still think like this, and by God, it's just gonna ruin The Legend of Zelda for everybody. I mean, at least it's gonna ruin the discourse about The Legend of Zelda if things like this become commonplace. So I feel we should just nip this in the bud now, which is why I've done two of these videos relatively back-to-back, since these two articles just happen to come out relatively back-to-back. But those are my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Bolt the Word, and please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news nearly every day, and not always about The Legend of Zelda or gaming in general, but anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon, and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord, choose the articles I go over on a day-to-day basis, choose the videos we react to on the streams, and of course, get involved with over 180 other vital idols. We are a bright, beautiful, glowing, vibrant community that I cannot wait to grow even further, because we do care about diversity. We're only one kind of diversity of thought. If that's interesting to you, join the Discord, hit subscribe, and until next time, it is all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.